Hey, this is Jeff with Prescott Home Safety, and today we came back out. We cleaned this wood stove a few weeks back, but when we came out and cleaned it, the baffle was in really bad repair. It was basically disintegrating and falling apart. So we had to order some parts. We got them in, and we're coming back out today to replace the baffle and to show you all what a baffle is, how to replace it, and how we go about approaching that problem. So to answer the question, what is a baffle? Always remember that smoke is fuel. So even though the wood is burning, it's producing smoke, and that smoke still has some level of burnability to it, for lack of a better word. So the longer we can keep that smoke in the firebox and bring it up to temperature to where it'll ignite, it's gonna create less creosote in the chimney, and then it's also gonna make your wood stove more efficient. Instead of just sending that smoke up and out, it's reburning it and being able to produce more heat. So just to go inside the firebox here, we'll take a closer look at it to show you what we're looking at when we're talking about baffles. So you can see we've got all these tubes up here, and then right up there you can see that's the bottom of the chimney. That's where it comes into the firebox. But we've got all these tubes that have a bunch of holes in them, and the baffle would normally sit up on top of all those tubes, and it's usually made out of a ceramic based fiberglass board. And the whole point of that board is to keep the smoke from going right up the chimney, but it also preheats it, and when the smoke hits that preheated board, it helps bring the smoke up to temperature to ignite. And then all those tubes with all those little holes, that's all where fresh air is coming in to give that smoke some oxygen so that it'll ignite. So before we can put the new baffle in, we've got to pull some of these tubes out of the way. Every setup is a little bit different, but this particular setup, there's screws right there. You just loosen those screws, take them out, and then you can pull those tubes right out. So I'm gonna cut the video here, get some of those tubes pulled out, and then we'll take a closer look.
A few moments later.
Okay, so we got 3 of the 4 tubes out. You can see those are the holes where the tubes go in. You can see that since we were out here and cleaned it before, like I said, the homeowner's been burning. So a lot of stuff is accumulated up on that shelf. So we need to get the vacuum out and get that all cleaned up. Okay, so we got that shelf all cleaned off inside of there. Ready to take the new baffle. This is the new baffle that we ordered. This one's specifically made for this stove. Sometimes we can't find the exact model, and we have to cut a new one from a bigger piece of material, cut it down to fit your unit. Luckily, this is a new enough stove that you can still get parts. They're readily available. I wanted to talk about the blanket material that goes on top of some baffles. It's designed to increase the thermal capability of the baffle material itself, keep it hotter so that it's easier to ignite the smoke when it's passing by. This particular model stove didn't have a blanket up on top of the baffle, and looking at the inside of that, there's not room for one. So make sure that if you're replacing your baffle, you're bringing it back to the specs as it was originally designed. This stuff comes in different thicknesses, so when you're ordering your baffle material, make sure that it's the same stuff that was designed with the wood stove. So now we're at the point where we can try to dry fit our baffle up in there. So we'll try to wiggle this thing up in here, see how we can do. And it's important to remember that this material it's tough. It's designed to withstand temperatures over 2,000 degrees, but it's still pretty easy to break if you strong arm it too much. It can break on you. So just be super careful of that. This material is not cheap, so you don't want to break a brand new piece of it, or you're going to be out another $80 to $100. So I'll get this thing dry fit in here, make sure everything lines up, and then show you what it looks like once we get it in there. Okay, so after we got the new baffle dry fit in here, and there's a metal tab right up here, and I can tell that there's just enough room between where the top of those tubes are going to be and that tab. The new baffle should slide in there just right and really be a perfect fit. One thing to note, when we were pulling out some of these tubes, those little Phillips head screws that were holding them in, a couple of them broke just from years of being exposed to heating and cooling. They got weakened and broke, but we'll go ahead and figure out how we're gonna drill out the broken screws, and a couple of those Phillips head screws also stripped out, the actual head of the screw stripped out. So we'll get all those replaced with hex head screws, a lot more user friendly for doing this type of work, and they're a lot stronger. So we'll get those drilled out and fixed, and then we'll start putting these tubes back in and get this baffle wrapped up. Okay, so we got some of those screws taken care of. We're gonna have to take care of the rest of them when we put the tubes back in. We've still got our baffle dry fitted in here. So now it's time to start putting the tubes back in. We'll start with the tube closest to us. And so when you're putting these in, just remember that that board is, you know, it's not the strongest stuff in the world, so just be careful with it and make sure you're not breaking it. So first tube's in. Now we can take this and we'll just work our way back, starting with the closest tube and working our way back. All right, I think we got them all in there. Now, take the camera and show you that little piece of metal I was talking about. So right here, that baffle, it'll rest on top of this tube, but then it'll go underneath that metal tab that's right there. Same thing on the other side. So I gotta set the camera down so I have both hands free so I can get this under there, and then I'll show you what it looks like once we get it where it should be. Okay, so we got it all into place. You can see it's below that metal tab. It's above all of our air tubes. You can see the hex head screws that we swapped out for the old, and baffle's in place and ready for a fire.
3 days later.
Okay, so what you've seen up to now is us replacing the baffle, getting it all ready for a fire. That was actually several days ago. We have been having some warm weather, so it hasn't really been a good time to have a fire. Last night a cold snap rolled in, so today's been cold. Good day to have a fire going, and we can show you how the baffle works and give you a good idea of exactly what the purpose of it is. Okay, so I brought in my trusty assistant, Tanner. He's gonna go ahead and get it lit for us, and that way we can show you how the baffle works and the air tubes and how all that stuff works that we got fixed up here. Good. It looks like it's gonna go like that. Now we can put a couple more on top right there. Okay, so we're still just trying to get that baffle heated up enough so that it'll start igniting that smoke. And those tubes are providing oxygen. It's lighting off. Here you can see it pretty good here in the back. Right there, you can see those, just kind of a line of fire right there in the back. All right. We're down low, looking up towards the roof of the firebox. You can see our air tubes up there. And I'm just kind of playing back and forth with the air intake, giving it more air, choking it down, just so that you can see what the baffle and the tubes are doing. You can see that smoke lighting off up there along the roof of the firebox. And so here's another really good representation just to show you what happens when we choke it all the way down. We can actually make all this fire down in the bottom go out, and you'll only be seeing fire from the top. And that's 100% from the baffle and those air tubes. So that's kind of the down and dirty on how we replace a baffle, how we get it taken care of. It's not exactly the easiest fix. So if you're not super handy, definitely recommend hiring a chimney professional to come out and take care of this for you. But making sure you've got a baffle that's in good shape. It's going to prevent creosote buildup in your chimney. It's going to make your wood stove a whole lot more efficient. And if you've got one that's in disrepair, you definitely need to get it taken care of. So this is Jeff with Prescott Home Safety. If you're in the Prescott or Yavapai County areas and you need a chimney professional to come out and take care of a baffle for you or any of your other chimney cleaning needs, give me a call, 928-925-1012. Thanks.